Hey guys, what's up? It's Eric from winwiththepass.com. Thanks for checking out this video series about the weight room. Today we're just going to go a little bit through my story, and as we start to understand what we think a comprehensive weight room should look like at the high school level, I'm going to share with you some of my biggest challenges, some of my biggest struggles, and some of the things we've done to correct some of those issues. So let's get it rolling. So when I think about building a comprehensive weight program, I come up with some major issues at the high school level. This is all coming from my experience, things that I've seen and things that I've witnessed in my 10 plus years in high school coaching. The biggest problems I see are number one, time, number two, space, and number three, how do you deal with multi-sport athletes? Those are the big issues. I mean, we all know we need to lift. I don't think there's a coach out there that would say, oh yeah, the weight room isn't important. We know it creates strength, it creates explosion, it creates flexibility, and it keeps kids from getting injured. But how do you accomplish all of that while dealing with limited time, limited space, and multi-sport athletes? And even if it's not a multi-sport athlete, a kid who's doing multiple things, right? So I think I want to take you a little bit through my story and how I've dealt with some of these issues in the past. First of all, let's start with the issue of time. I'll tell you a little bit of some of the ways I've dealt with this before. I know that the after school time from 3 to 5 p.m. is incredibly valuable, right? We are either at practice if it's during the season, or kids are at a different practice if it's not during the season. If it's in the off season, the weight room may be occupied by another team or something like that. So I know that 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock window is incredibly valuable, and these kids have a ton of stuff to do in that window. So early in my career, my solution to this was the morning. I look back on the things that I did and the mistakes that I made, and I feel bad for the kids that had me in the first couple of years of coaching. I required 0 period class. We met at 6:45 every single day, and we lifted weights. It was for credit, so they didn't have the choice of whether to come or not. They had to come, or they didn't pass. And let me tell you, we got bigger, we got stronger, we got faster. We became less prone to injury, but I burned out my kids. I really did. I mean, forcing them to come to the weight room every day at 6:45 a.m., 200 plus days a year was a grind. It was a grind on me. It was a grind on them. It was a grind on my coaching staff. There's a lot of lessons I learned in that. Number one, high school kids are not college kids, right? I was coming fresh out of college. I was all charged up, and we lifted weights early when I was playing college football. So I thought I could just kind of bring that to the high school level. The positives, there were some positives. We grew as a team and we bonded and we came together. But the fact is, I burned out my kids. I kept a lot of kids from wanting to play football because they didn't want to get up at 6:45 in February and get to the weight room. And when I look back on it, what I didn't do was find time that kids wanted to maximize, right? I stole time. I stole from sleeping. I stole from late night homework. That's where I stole my time, and I regret that. So I've come up in recent years with a different solution for that. So let's kind of look at some of my solutions for how to manage time. So how do we deal with the issue of time? Well, number one, we need to commit to an idea. That idea that you don't have to be in the weight room for 2.5 hours a day. In fact, I would submit that if you're requiring your kids to be in the weight room for 2.5 hours a day, you either have unbelievably committed kids or your kids are going to get burned out. So let's commit together to a 45-minute to an hour workout. And I think most of us would agree, if you could get your kids into the weight room for 45 minutes to an hour, 3 to 4 days a week for the entirety of the off season, you would have a much faster, much more explosive, much more physical, and much less injury-prone football team. So let's commit to that. Let's try to get kids in and out of the weight room within 45 minutes to an hour. So if that's the case, where can we steal that 45 minutes to an hour? I will submit to you two options. I really think there's three, but I've already told you I don't really like the mornings. Now, maybe your school schedule is conducive to that. Maybe you don't start until 8:30 or 9, and you could get kids here a little bit later and still accomplish that. I tend to not like the mornings because of the burnout it creates. I do like the mornings in the summer. That's a whole different deal. But during the school year, I think it puts a lot of wear and tear on the kids and a lot of wear and tear on the morale. So, if the mornings are not an option, where can you steal that time? Well, let's start with the most obvious, after school. If you can get the kids, say you get out of school at 2:30, you can get the kids into the weight room by 2:40 and get them home or out of the weight room by 3:40, I don't think you're going to create burnout. They're still home by 4 o'clock, 4:15. They have plenty of time to do their other things. They have plenty of time to do their homework. Now, this does create a problem with multi-sport athletes, which I will deal with in point number 3. But I think the after-school window is the most obvious, right? Get them in the weight room, get them out of the weight room, try to get them home by 4 o'clock. If you can get them home by 4 o'clock, their night is going to still feel full, and I think you will avoid some of that burnout. And again, this is speaking from someone who has not always done this very well. Number 2 option, I think this is the better of the two options, and it's the way that I try to go about it. Build a comprehensive weight program into your PE curriculum. Forge a relationship with your PE teacher, or maybe you are the PE teacher, and get all of your kids signed up for a weights class where they are accomplishing this during their school day. I think the benefits of this are huge. Number 1, there's no extra time needed after school. Number 2, education philosophy and studies show kids will learn better if they have an hour of activity built into their day. If you can do that, if you can get all of your kids into a PE class where they are training and they are working and they are growing and they are getting bigger and stronger and faster and more explosive for the entirety of the year, and it's for a grade, and it's built into their day, oh my goodness, your job is done, right? Your job is done for you. All they're going to do now is show up at the beginning of the summer and they're going to be ready to go. So that would be my second option and my number 1 choice. And again, I know school districts are different. Some places are cutting money, some places are cutting PE. But if you have the option to get your kids into a weight training class, that would be my number 1 piece of advice. All right, let's talk about the issue of space. That's issue number 2. If you look behind me, you will see our weight room is not huge, right? We have 6 racks. We have some dumbbells. We have some benches. It's not a state-of-the-art weight room. And some of you may have a state-of-the-art weight room. I don't, and I've never been at a school that does. So how do you deal with limited space? Like I said, I think anybody could create a weight program to train 30 to 40 to 50 guys if you had 12 platforms and 12 racks and 12 benches. That's easy, right? Put everybody on a rack, put everybody on a bench, or put everybody on a platform and just rotate them through. But I've never been in a school that has those types of resources. So how do you build a program that maximizes space? Well, I'll tell you again, from my own personal experience, here's how I've done it in the past. I'll talk about our summer program a little bit. We had a group that met at 7, we had a group that met at 8, we had a group that met at 9. Each group was 15 to 20 kids, and therefore we were able to have 1 or 2 kids per rack, and we could move kids through the weight room pretty efficiently. The problem with that is, getting back to issue number 1, now I've made myself be at the weight room for 4 hours a day in the summer. I don't want to be at the weight room for 4 hours a day in the summer. Like, the season is coming and I need some vacation, and so do my coaches. So that's not a good solution. The question is, then, how do you move 45 to 50 kids through a weight room with limited space, right? So I will submit to you that there is a way to do it, okay? You need to turn every single rack into a miniature circuit. The problem when you have limited space is kids end up standing around for the entirety of the workout. So you're in there for an hour and a half or 2 hours because you're waiting for everybody to get done. How many times you've seen it? You walk into a high school weight room, you see one guy benching, you see one guy spotting and 4 guys cheering. That is not an efficient workout. You have limited space, you have limited time. your kids need to be doing something the entirety of the period that they're in the weight room. That's the key. And so if you can create a program that is based on the circuit training model, where say you have 4 kids at a rack, 1 kid is benching, 1 kid is spotting, but the other 2 kids are doing something productive. Maybe they're doing one-legged squats or squat jumps or plyometric push-ups or some type of core exercise, and then they rotate through that cycle. That is going to give you an efficient use of space and also maximize the time that your kids are in the weight room. With this program, we can move 45 to 50 kids in and out of the weight room in less than an hour. And that's counting a dynamic warm-up and usually some type of burnout activity. So the actual point that they're in the weight room is only about 40 to 45 minutes. It's all about maximizing your space, turning every single square inch of that weight room into something that the kids can use productively. All right, so let's look at the last problem, which is the issue of the two-sport athlete, the multi-sport athlete. Now, I love the multi-sport athlete. I think that kids that have a chance to compete all year round are going to be better players. I think that kids that have multiple skill sets are going to be better football players. And plus, I just believe that playing multiple sports is fun, right? I played multiple sports. I'm sure most of you guys played multiple sports because that's how we did it back in the day. But those multi-sport athletes still have to lift. They still have to train, or they're not going to be ready to play in August. They're going to get hurt, right? We know that. We know that you have to train year-round if you want to be the best player that you can be. So how do you go about creating a program that allows kids who are playing multiple sports to still be productive in the off-season without jeopardizing their sport that they're currently in? That's a tough one, right? I talked a little bit earlier about building a comprehensive program within your PE department. If you guys can do that, you've solved some of the issues because there's no conflict with practice. But there's still some other issues that you have to deal with, which I'll get into in a second. Before I do that, let me tell you the way I screwed up as a young coach. Most of this video is about ways that I've screwed up. So here's what we used to do. I told you that we lifted at 6:45 in the morning. We had hard and fast standards, right? This was the workout. And if you were going to play football, you were going to do this workout. So whether that was heavy squats or heavy bench, or we were running some type of obstacle course or an agility training day or whatever it was, you were doing that workout. And I don't care if you play baseball, if you run track, if you play basketball, this is the workout for the day. And if you want to play football, you're going to do this workout. I was going off of an idea in my head that kids could lift at 6:45 in the morning and still perform at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, especially if it's baseball, right? I mean, we know baseball, most of the time, and I was a baseball player, but most of the time you stand around. So does it really matter if you squat at 6:45 a.m. if all you're going to do is stand around at 4 in the afternoon? And I guess that's true on a certain level, but what I completely underestimated was how that looks to the baseball coach, right? I didn't think about the type of relationship that I was damaging by basically saying football is more important than baseball. I believe that this workout is so important that we play in 8 months, guys. You got to squat today so you can be ready to play in 8 months. Never mind what you're doing in 8 hours. And honestly, when I look back on it, I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed, and that's the reason I changed, because I finally got some sense talked into me, and we realized that what we actually needed to do was just keep a level, a balance, a maintenance program for kids who are playing multiple sports. They need to do something, but they don't need to do everything. So that's why we created workout modifications. And I will submit to you that if you are building a comprehensive workout program, the number one thing you can do for multi-sport athletes is modify their workouts for a couple reasons. Number one, I think it keeps them healthy. It keeps them from overtraining. But number two, it's a morale boost. It is you telling them and you telling the in-season coach that you value what they are doing in their other sport. So however you get them in the weight room, whether that is meeting them really quick after school for a 20-minute workout before they go out to their coach, or if you have it built into a comprehensive PE program, however you get them in the weight room, their workouts should be modified. Their weights should be lessened. Their reps should be lessened. They should be doing more body weight, more maintenance, more flexibility type of training that will serve them for their current sport, won't overtrain them, and will also get their morale to a place where they are excited to come back for football. The other thing that this does is this creates camaraderie amongst your coaches. And that's really what you want. You want your baseball coach to support you. You want your track coach to support you. You want your basketball coach to support you. So if you can create modified workouts for those multi-sport athletes, you will solve a lot of the issues that we all deal with. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Underneath this video, there's going to be a section for comments. Please leave a comment. Let me know if there's any other struggles that you've found in terms of getting your kids into the weight room or keeping them in the weight room, maybe some motivational techniques you've used, anything like that. I'd love to read those and to reply to those, and create kind of a discussion around this topic of maximizing time and maximizing space, as well as giving some accommodations to multi-sport athletes. In the next video, we're going to look at how to actually accomplish this. I'm going to get some guys down here to demonstrate what one of these circuits looks like. We're going to start to look at how to build a program that does all of these things. So check that out. That'll be out pretty soon. Again, check out my blog at winwiththepass.com, and I'll see you guys next time.